Hey, how y'all doing? This is Hunt 919 Truth of Sports coming to you with another segment. So let's go ahead and get right into this segment. As you all know, I do segments on some of the ex-Colorado Buffs players who played at Colorado at one point in time, and I became fans of them. So I followed them to their new teams. So I kind of keep up weekly or keep the channel up weekly with how that person is doing individually, and also how their team is doing. And this one in particular is not necessarily a player; it's an ex-coach, ex-coach Sean Lewis, who was the offensive coordinator at the University of Colorado in 2023 or last year. So, of course, you all, or everybody knows that he went on to San Diego State. He is a good coach. He was known before he got to Coach Prime. Um, but you have to take into account he's not Coach Prime as far as recruiting, so it may take him a year or two longer to get the results he wants. Coach Prime can kind of turn the program around in a short year or two because of who he is and people. He doesn't really have to recruit too hard. People kind of want to go to him. Sean Lewis is the opposite, so I give him a little bit more time for him to show some real progression. So this season was not a bad season for him just to be taking over the team. I think it's going to take him a couple more years to get to where he wants to get to. So let's go ahead and get to some of the into a season. They do play in the Mountain West Conference. Some of the teams that you may know in the Mountain West Conference is Boise State. Boise State, of course, has a Heisman candidate at the running back position, Ginty. They also have Colorado State within that conference. We all know who Colorado State is because they go at Colorado and Colorado State. Go back and forth, a good rivalry. Then you have Utah State. I mentioned Utah State because normally Utah State is a ranked program out there in the Mountain West Conference. They did finish the year 3-9 overall, 2-5 within their conference. The year before Sean Lewis took over, they were 4-8, so they're actually a game worse since Sean Lewis got there. But like I said before, that's one of the reasons I said it's going to take him a little bit more time. So with him being an offensive-minded coach, I wanted to kind of get into some of the offensive stats or some of the offensive positives that he had for his first year. So let's get right into his quarterback. His quarterback did finish in the top 10 within the conference in passing yards. He had 2,100 yards, 2,181 yards to be exact, on 330 attempts with 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions and 26 sacks. Pretty average quarterback. Shadu, of course, doubles that, but, pretty average quarterback. But he did have an outstanding running back who went over 1,200 yards for the season, 1,274 to be exact, with 12 touchdowns. And his name was Marquez Cooper. So he has a very good running back. Now, as far as receivers, he had his top receiver had 620 yards, but he did have 8 receivers that went over that had at least 100 yards. So they passed by committee, and they had 4 that went over 300 yards for the season. So they had their top 3, but then they went as deep as 8 as far as having over 100 yards, or the top 3 or 4 that had over 300 yards for the season, and then their top receiver had 620 yards. So it's by committee. Their receiving group only got recorded 15 touchdowns for the season. As far as yards, their receiving group got 2,400 yards, 2,468 yards as a whole. As far as a group, which is not too bad. Their top rusher, as I said before, was Marquez Cooper, who had 1,274 yards, and he was only second in the conference to the Heisman candidate, which is Ashton Jeanty. So their running back finished second in the conference as far as rushing. So he had a very good running back. He has a good receiving core, or a good receiving group. Now, defensive wise, he did have a player off his team. His name is Jordan Pollard, who was third in the conference in total tackles, which is good. They also had a guy named Trey White. He led the conference in sacks with 12.5. The second place behind him only had 9, so that tells you how good his season was. And that 12.5 put him fourth nationally as far as sacks. So be looking forward to that guy going to Colorado next year. No, I'm joking. I am joking. But he has a very good guy on the edge, and Trey White. So keep that name in mind, because with them having a bad season, everybody transferring, just never know what to happen. So keep your ears out for Trey White. And I did look him up. He's a sophomore. He is from San Diego, so he may just stay there because it's close proximity to where he's from. The passing offense ranked 10th out of 12 teams within the conference, which is pretty bad. They finished 10th in points at 256, so they didn't put up a lot of points at all. Their quarterback back did not put up a lot of passing yards for the most part, and they were ranked number 9 in yards per game out of the 12 teams within the conference. So with them not doing so good in the conference, there was no need to put them nationally. There's no need to do all that. So in conclusion, they did finish 3-9, 10th in the Mountain West out of 12 teams. They did have a running back who finished second in the conference to rushing and rushing. They had a defensive player who was third in the conference in total tackles. Then they had a guy in the conference who actually led their conference in sacks. Again, his name is Troy White, which put him fourth nationally. So overall, I can't say it was a good season because they did one less than what they did the year before he got there, and the year before they got there, they were 4-8. So just have to give Coach Lewis a couple more years to get everything together the way he wants it. Then we will be able to judge him on much more of a fair note. It's been Hunt 919 Truth to Sports. Ride with me.